to get us going, and I'm happy to answer any of your questions along the way. That's part of the fun. So let me see here, actually, just to get us started. Let me see, is there anything in particular that, so today obviously we're going to talk about prompt engineering, but I wanted to know, is there anything that you're most interested in here? And you're welcome to answer, I guess, really, 1, 2, and 4 if you choose, or 5, or whatever is appropriate. So personally, I'm going to be a 5 here. Okay. So just go grab the chat, and you can just type in a number there and tell me. Abby, welcome. Let's see, 3, analysis. Okay, cool. I will actually do some how to do analysis of interviews using prompting. So perfect. Pulkit, everything. Great. Well, I want to talk briefly just about my class. So that works. Pulkit, welcome. Natalie, Justin, Jessica, sure. I'll try to keep up with, sometimes it's a little hard to keep up with chat, but Franz, cool. Justin, okay, let's see a little deeper on 2. Okay. And let me actually even just, while we're getting started and people are just sort of entering, let me just tell you, in general, so you know what prompt engineering is. AI moderated interviews, just in case you're not sure, is where we, someone signs up for an interview. They're given, rather than just given a question and asked to record an answer, when they do that, it actually, so let's say I talk about the kinds of ways I use AI in everyday life, as an example. Then the interviewer, which is an AI, actually asks dynamic follow-up questions that are related to that according to the plans we gave it. So AI moderated interviews are pretty cool, actually. There are specialized tools for AI-powered analysis, and this notion of synthetic users is really how do we represent an equivalency of a human to help inspire our designs, our work, and so on. Very cool. Okay, cool. Well, let me actually go ahead and get started. So what I want to say is that ultimately in my class, I try to have 4 key things that we learn. And interestingly, we're getting more into the, I think actually there was, I saw Dan may have joined, we're getting more into the sort of agentic side as well. But really, I want you to learn today a little bit of prompt engineering. But in general, I'd love you to learn these 4 things that I think are increasingly going to play a role in how we do research, whether we're dedicated researchers or we're product owners, designers, and so on. So very cool. Let me actually here, so let me just keep going. And I just wanted to tell you a little bit about my class called AI for Customer Research, since this is a free version of that, just to give you a little taste. So what we try to do is really give you a key set of tools. So these are things that are enterprise scale things that are not readily available publicly, but I wanted you to experience what really is possible today and sort of the state of the art. I've got a, I can show you, I've got a podcast I do. Let's see, I guess it's not in here. And this is where I've been interviewing the founders of AI-powered research tools. Sorry, realizing my typing while talking is only so good. Okay, cool. And so what we do is we try to interview all these, here we go, AI for UX. And this is really where I have actually now about 40 of these different, no thank you. Oh, and I don't need me talking. But I think the key point is I've got 37, 30, something like that. 35 here. We actually have a few more that are recorded. They're going to go live. But I've got a lot of the major tools that we've interviewed, and so we've tried them. We've learned what's possible, and actually from that actually got access for our class to use some of these tools so you can try them as well, so you know sort of what's possible and what's best. So we've got things for AI moderation, not surprisingly. We've got things for AI analysis, some for synthetic users like syntheticulsers.com. And so, and we really try to work through a classic example of like collecting data, analyzing data, simulating equivalency and see how close that is to what we just analyzed from our real world study. The other thing is I've got a whole series of guides that I give you for prompting, AI moderation analysis, your future as a UXer and sort of your future role in talking about that, as well as synthetic users. The other thing we do is we try to bring together how should your new AI-powered, empowered really, workflow work. So that's the idea. And I've been lucky. It's actually a Maven top 100 class, so that's cool. And I'm out of the way. So here, let me just do this and make this a little bigger for you. Cool. So anyway, if you're interested, by all means, you can reach out, join me on LinkedIn. You can just Google me, find me, and very cool. Let's see. Oh, hey, Bulgit, thank you for signing up for that podcast. Actually, and you know, if you're considering some of these tools, everyone actually demos it live there, so it's all public, and I want you to, you know, benefit from all that as well. Cool. Anything else I wanted to say? No, I think really the idea is we're all so, I don't know, honestly, there's a little bit of like excitement and freak out about everything happening in AI. And I want you to understand how you can really benefit from this and be one of the real leaders that helps to shape how we use AI properly in UX research throughout it, whether you're a person who does research like a designer or a UXer and so on. Okay, cool. So we have sort of founders, product owners, real people like me who've been UX researchers forever, a full range of people who show up. Cool. Okay, you didn't come for that. You came for this. So let me just talk about this. If you have any questions along the way, by the way, I do want you to really let me know. So I'm going to try to just balance this out. I guess we've got a little, maybe it'll be more like 6 minutes a thing, ish. And so try to finish this up pretty much, usually go a few minutes over just because of questions and stuff, but I want you to see what metaprompting is. I want to show you how to analyze research and creating synthetic users. So these are all things we can do with prompting today, and you don't need a pro account. It helps in some cases, but in general, you're going to be all set. So I tend to use ChatGPT in the demo, but we really try all of the tools. I really encourage you to try Claude, Gemini, obviously the ChatGPT family. Excuse me, we've also had in class some folks say that they really like Grok. So I just want you to know, don't hesitate to try this on a wide variety of tools and see what works best for you. Actually, while I'm here, I'll just explain the notion of metaprompting for you. And it sounds kind of weird, but it's actually a really handy, I don't know, I call it like a Swiss Army knife. You can kind of use it for anything. And the key point is this: you are not your LLM, right? So you have things that seem obvious to you, but there could be questions that your LLM has that it's not very certain about, but it is trained to just go, blah, here's your answer. And so we want to stop that, and we want to make sure that it formats your prompt ideally, so you don't have to learn how to do that, and basically let it interview you to create a prompt. That's the idea. So metaprompting doesn't have to have this process of interviewing you, but in general, we want it to ask questions and then create the ideal prompt in the right sort of language and parlance for that tool. Let me actually just show you one example of what I'm thinking about here. So in general, I guess I really want you, just sort of prompting generally, I always think it's really helpful to have, and this is like a little baby example, but the notion of a role, who is the, and think about it this way, it kind of makes sense. You would want to have your LLM be as specific in the ideas it activates from all of its brain. If it's got, you know, a PhD in every category, let's get it to focus on the right parts to be more effective. So the role, what should it be? Ultimately, the goal, I guess I would say role and goal really, the outcome you want. Any of the background, we know that people have talked about prompt engineering and then context engineering. And it's absolutely true that we really want to make sure that we have all the gory details. This is why if you're in a paid account, getting a project is actually helpful. And projects have both custom instructions, and then it will be basically focused on the files you've got in that project. So I want, if you haven't explored projects, I want you to do that. It's easier to do over in OpenAI, ChatGPT, and in Claude right now than it is to do that kind of thing over in Gemini or like Copilot. But still, I want you to study that because it's coming for you. If you're more advanced, you're going to start thinking about things like retrieval augmented generation, where you've got a database you're hitting. And lastly, we really want to give it both, ideally, good examples and bad examples, so it knows what to do. So the more specific you can be, the better. So hopefully my things followed that. The other thing I was going to say is that if you take a look at this, you know, I think ChatGPT is sort of favors Markdown language, which is a really, it's like old before HTML. And it's a really simple, like this is a second heading is task and role, for example, here. You don't need emojis, it happens to have it there. But I wanted to say that here for Claude, when you're actually building for actually really coding and so on, it likes to do things in XML format, so it knows exactly where something starts and stops, which kind of makes sense. And I just wanted to say that you don't have to be an expert in coding to be able to pull this off, but it's just, it gives it even more clarity when things are really important. So I just want to say that that's one example. The sequence of these categories of information is always a little different with each model. So try to just learn for yours. They're constantly updating these things. There are good guides from OpenAI. There's a good one from Anthropic. So just keep learning. It just keeps evolving. Cool. And yeah, if you have any questions anywhere, just jump in and let me know, because it's more fun chatting like that. So let me start with this. Yeah, here, just one sec. Just making sure. Got a couple people who are stuck. There we go. Okay, good. Cool. Well, welcome everyone. Sorry, there were a couple people who were stuck in the waiting room for reasons I can't explain, and so I'm glad to have you all here. Okay, cool. So we got to just the basics of what we want to do here, and you know that I was going to try to give you 3 different things. So let's get rolling. By the way, I'm going to show you this, and here, let me just, you're going to say, hey, can you give me a copy of that file? And that's a very reasonable request because we're all learning. And so let me do that. So I'm going to put it in the chat here. And actually, if someone can just, you know, after a couple of minutes, just repost that, that would be great. Good. I see you all joining the thing here. We've got all the little characters, so very cool. And what we're going to do is sort of 3 things. I wanted to try a meta prompt. So this is really targeted at UX researchers. And just to give you a sense, I'll try to zoom in enough so you can see it clearly enough. So there's a role. You're an expert UX researcher and prompt engineer. Cool. You've got a goal, create a prompt, right? So they're not doing something for me. They're just creating a prompt. That's what a metaprompting is. So the task is basically ask me 5 questions. So like when you're little kid and playing a questions game, and then output an optimized prompt, and don't complete the prompt. So I put that in specifically because ChatGPT at this time is like a little more enthusiastic, and so it tends to want to actually just blah out whatever you're trying to do as opposed to just giving you a prompt. So so let me just get a fresh page here. I gave that a little try before our meeting, just to, because the models keep changing, and then as a result, you know, it doesn't work the way you're expecting. So I want you to just know that and be sort of expecting the unexpected. Okay, so let me give this a try, and I'll just show you kind of how this goes. If you can use this, you can use it for almost anything. So that's the nice thing about this. And also, these are all text-based. I happen to be focused on UX research. If you were like, wanted to do things about marketing or writing or something else, you can do the same thing with this. I just want you to learn the principle. I find it pretty easy to have it ask me a set of questions so that I can kind of, you know, just work through my ideas with it. Personally, I like to see 1 question at a time. That's why I set it up that way. You could do it differently if you choose. So in this case, let's just say I'm trying to make a interview guide. Okay, so I am in data collection, making an interview guide. I see a few. Oh yeah, here actually, I'll try to answer questions when I can. Let's see here what we've got. Cool. Let's see. I got a question from Morgan. Is it important to state the role and task, or the tool understand the context? Actually, they recommend that you do that, like sort of role, task, so on, specifically so it knows what areas to focus on there. It can infer these things, and you know that underlyingly it takes in your prompt and then tries to figure it all out underneath. But if you're not making it figure that out, you're more likely to have success. So Morgan, I think I actually do it every time, and I think it really helps. Let's see, the asterisks are actually marked here. Let me just show something. I'll promise to get back to what I'm doing, but just to make sure you're all tracking. So this is something you'd learn in my class. But here, if I just scoot over here to give you a sense, Markdown language is super simple. It's just that like stars are bold and stuff like that, and headings and stuff. So anyway, it's easy to just do a quick like explain Markdown language in one page for me kind of thing. It's meant to be not complicated. Okay, just making sure you're tracking. Cool. So let me see here. What outcome or deliverable? Okay, well, actually, I kind of feel like I just told you that, but that's okay. So we're gonna, oh yeah. So, oh, sorry, what outcome do I want from the interview guide? It's amazing when you read Word what happens. Okay, so we want to, oh, no, we don't want to do that. We want to uncover unmet needs, I think is a great idea. This is about like, how are people using AI right now in their everyday life? And we want to, yeah, just, cool. And I'm going to actually give it one more thing. Here's research brief. So again, this is context helps, right? So I'm going to go over here, and I've just got a little, this is something we use in class, but man, I got to turn that off, so it's annoying. This is just the questions like, how many people, when did they use it? What do they use it for? Do they trust it? You know, sort of basic core questions, but I think that's helpful for it to know to frame what we're doing here. Do you have any constraints? Okay, so we want this to be a 15-minute interview. We want, this is a general population. We want it to be, let's see, yeah, I think those are about it, really. Yeah, particular format. So these are actually, see, hopefully you can see I'm sort of reverse engineering the questions that would make a good prompt. So in this case, I want a warm up. I'm just trying to give you an example. Let's see here, main question plus 2 follow-ups, because I want to do AI moderation, and that's really important. And then I'm going to do a wrap up. Keep it simple. Okay, so lastly, it's asking, do I have any files? So if we were doing something like data analysis, or I had an example, then this is when I could give it to it. So in this case, just simple no. Okay, so now it's made me a prompt. And actually here, I can actually let's see, Morgan, your point. Let me say, share, okay, let's see it in Markdown format. There we go. Okay, so this is where, think of the stars as bold, for example. Okay, so now I can go ahead and let's just give this a whirl and see what it gives us. And you can see from the context, it's created a context region itself as well. Okay, so I'm trying to do a fresh one so it doesn't think we're still making a meta prompt. And hopefully it'll give me the interview guide. Okay, so it pretty much followed what, oh, okay. real life. I guess we're midday. It's starting to get busy over at the little hamsters on the hamster wheels have to work really hard in the middle of the day to produce these things. Okay. In the interwebs. Okay, so you can see actually, some of those, I know I didn't really give you a chance to read it, but some of the stakeholder questions were about how do you typically use it, how often, how much do you trust it, what are things that are going wrong right now, what would be your vision for something perfect. So it's just a way to get so I got a good start, and you and I in just a few minutes produce something here. So anyway, that's one thing I wanted to mention. Here, let me just see if I can pass a question over here so we can talk about it. Cool. Justin, thank you for your question or mention here. I think actually the best answer here is we constantly test, and you're right to bring up perplexity. Under the hood, so Perplexity doesn't actually, they actually use other LLMs in Perplexity as well. So it is good at research in general. I don't know about UX research in specific, but what I want you to do is go ahead and put it to the test. Try some of these prompts with these things and actually do like UX research and stuff and see what you find. So we are constantly testing and sort of try to be as agnostic as we can because these things are changing so fast. But yeah, thank you for your note. Let me see if I can do the right thing here. Cool. Okay, Venkam, simple question. Will this be shared? Yes, it will. So you're all set. Yeah, so I think text-based is fine. Sadika, this is where it gives it one more level of clarity, right? So I'm like, if there's anything I can do, it kind of makes sense. If there's anything I can do to structure it in the way that you want it as the LLM, or if there are ways that I can just be super clear so there's less ambiguity, blah, 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 then I think that's important. So, so that's really the idea there. Okay, these are all really good questions. Keep questions coming. This is excellent. Okay, let me try. So yeah, I guess we've just done one of the three, but I think metaprompting, if anything, if I give you one thing today, I think that's it. The other thing actually I just wanted to say that I've got here in my class that I try to remind myself is over here. The other thing about prompting is actually I try almost every time to say, ask me 3 clarifying questions before you do anything. And the reason why I think that's so valuable is you find that it asks you questions where you're like, oh my God, you don't know what the answer is? I'm shocked. And so first of all, you learn that it's not you and doesn't have your common sense. And so you start to understand what it is unsure about. And it's sort of terrifying to find out what it's unsure about, but is happy to go and plow away anyway. And so you get to be a better prompt engineer by hearing what the questions are that it asks. So both you're clarifying them to patch that hole, and secondly, you're learning to be a better prompter, better at providing context. So anyway, there's our pro tip of the day. Cool. Okay, let me just try, let me see. Anyone got a more interest in doing interview analysis or doing synthetic users? So just type in the chat as soon as you're thinking it. Okay, well, Justin was our speediest response here. Okay, Abby's like, yes. Okay, analysis for sure. Okay, well, the gods have spoken. Okay, I promise to get to synthetic users as well. I'm just going to do it in the order I was intending to. So, so very cool. I promise to do both, but I'll just do this first. Thank you all for letting me know what you're interested in. Okay, so with this, you can see role, goal, context. This is sounding familiar, right? So you're an expert researcher, not shockingly. You're going to analyze multiple interview transcripts. So this is for qualitative things, not quant. Just to let you know, on the quantitative side, so if you have like Qualtrics data or something like that, I've actually found that I've used the pro version or the paid version of Claude and had it code. So I don't know if you know, there's an analysis tool called R. It's a single letter, capital R. and it's free, it's open source, and it's really the one that people like the most. Anyway, Claude can do fantastic R programming. So if you're on the quant side, really you can do really sophisticated analysis with Claude at your side. I was amazed at how well it performed for me. Took some time, wasn't always perfect, but it fixed its errors when we got there. Okay, so let's talk interview analysis. So you give in a research question, number of interviews, and your job is to basically do the analysis. So again, I've got a sort of steps here of what's your research question or questions, how many interviews are we going to be dealing with, and right for each one, for each participant, say, paste in the transcript. So in this case, I did it this way. You can actually say, do you want to present them one at a time, or do you want to upload them all as files? So it's kind of up to you. This prompt happens to be styled that way. It's really fielder's choice. You can do it however you choose. I'm trying to get it to say, what are the answers to my core research questions, themes, pain points, surprising findings. So I very specifically asked it to say, give me the number of interviews that whatever applies to, give me a quick description of the insight that we're talking about, the title of it, and then secondly, give me some participant quotes that are related. And then is there anything unique or surprising about the findings? So again, you can see this is like a 4th level highlight for person who, was it Sabika? No. Morgan, you asked me about Markdown. That's the idea there. Okay, so it's got a set of prompts, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's give this a try. Whoa, a little too far. 1 sec. Out of control. Here we go. Okay, now we're cooking. Okay, so let me go ahead and I'm going to do a fresh chat. I just have the default on here. It's going to be a little faster that way. If I was doing this for real and I didn't have a time constraint on us, I'd probably do thinking, just to let you know. I think that's appropriate in this context. So, okay, so I'm getting this rolling. Okay, what are your research questions? Okay, so this actually is related to, this one here. So I'm just going to go copy this guy here. And so these were some of our core research questions from our stakeholders. Okay, so let's do, we're together. I wanted to let you know there's a couple of reasons why I do this. One is I'm a tiny bit terrified that it's not going to actually read my transcripts, and I want to make sure they make it in there. The second thing is that if you're using ChatGPT or something, sometimes there's an annoying limitation to the number of files I can just add to a prompt. If you have a project, then it lets you do about 20 files. In Claude, you can do more, but this is a way basically to get past that 10 limitation. So if you're patient enough to copy and paste, you can pull it off. So, okay, so in this case, I'm going to say, let's do 3 interviews. I don't want to, have you guys just watch me copy paste all day. Okay, while this is thinking, we're going to get that stuff ready. Okay, groovy. Okay, so I actually have 2 sets of interviews here. One set were text-based, and the other was audio-based, and that's why I had transcripts of sort of voice-to-voice interviews as well. So let me just go ahead. I'm going to use the last 3 here, just so I make sure I don't mess up. So I know this is microscopic. You don't really need to see the interview itself, but it's saying, give me interview 1. Okay, cool. Okay, now it's saying, got it. Let's do interview 2. Okay, so let me just go over here and get the next one. The one thing I did do, can I just hit plus? Yeah. So this is in English. I'm going to do one of them in French just to show you that it's really, to test, to make sure it's really listening. Okay, so the third one, just to let you know, the other thing is that these things are really good at multilingual work. So that isn't here. If I zoom in here for a little bit, you can see this French. Copy. Okay, paste. Cool. So it really doesn't take too long to do that, actually. Okay, I also got it again because ChatGPT is so enthusiastic about go, go, go. I actually ask it to stop and not do anything for the analysis until I say so. So actually giving it a code word or giving it something you have to write in all caps is actually a really good way to stop that, just to give you a little trick here. Okay. Okay, so they were asked how often do you do these things? Daily, right? Plusieurs fois par jour. Okay, cool. And oh, by the way, I could have modified my prompt to say, please give me the source language plus, English, for example. Okay, so what it says giving us is a title, how many interviews this applies to, a description, and then quotes. So this says plusieurs fois par jour. So let's just make sure it's not making crap up. So let's go over here to this one, and I'm going to just make this a little bigger for you. I'm going to go find and paste. Let's see. Is it in there? Let's find out. How interesting. Oh, well, here. It's possible that I didn't quite do it right, but let's see. Plusieurs. Oh, there it is. Okay, sorry. I've had one thing. It might have been a period that it put in, but it's there. Okay, good. Phew. Okay, so we're seeing that we're really getting quotes. These aren't being made up, but we'd always want to test that. So, okay, so their trust with, this is their trust with general AI tools for everyday life, sort of is like medium. Okay. Couple people really wanted to make sure they had privacy. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so some of the challenges. So you can see, anyway, this is a nice format, I think, to get a sense of what it's talking about and if this notion is appropriate or not based on the actual source data. So I think it's just a nice way to do a prompt for these kind of things. So cool. And then lastly, if I just scroll down, here's unique to each person. This person was the privacy person. Like this person was doing a lot of, right, they were non-native English. And so they thought that was really useful. And this person, apparently their dog is very well taken care of. Okay, that's fine. So we're getting a little bit of that and what's surprising. So I find this a nice way to do this. And then at the end, it asks, okay, so this is it being over enthusiastic, but you could continue to ask questions of your data at this point. Okay, so I got some questions from the field. So let me just make sure I address, oops, sorry, you just added another one, which is excellent. Okay, so Sabika, does this work if we're doing interviews on the go? So if I only have a couple transcripts and want to add a few, yeah, I think, like creating a live analysis engine. I guess it's not really live. So interestingly, there are a few tools. If you use Maven, so heymarvin.com, you can actually bring it into Zoom and it does transcription and automatically does the analysis for you, so you don't have to do this kind of thing. But so that's actually kind of interesting. And some of the tools that are paid will dynamically recommend follow-up questions and stuff live, which is kind of fun. But yeah, I actually think this is really useful for just having a single transcript and just say like, what's the summary of what this person said? And you are welcome, by the way, these are all text prompts. You're welcome to adjust it to your needs. So yeah, we use this for like a quick, like, what did we hear in this particular interview? And always have it framed by the stakeholder questions so we can kind of address those right away. But if you wanted just to like, what are the top 3 points and give me quotes, just adjust it slightly to that. That's exactly the idea here. Try to give you something useful no matter what. Hey, Abby, welcome. Oh, sorry, one sec. I did it again. Let's see here. There, okay. The rest of the world exists. Abby, let's see. And does it help to include the prompt, please don't hallucinate? Yeah, let's take a look and see if I actually have that here. If I didn't, I should. So let's see. Yeah, actually, I'm so thankful for you to mention that. So so Abby's exactly right. You should say, actually, let's just look at the quotes area here. I think I might have mentioned it. No, okay, this one doesn't have it. Okay, so yeah, we should always say that, right, like, it makes me feel better to write in all caps. Let me here just get the Abby's comment out of the way here for a sec. So I'd say, right. So I just, and actually to Abby's point as well, I always want these things at the end because we know with like basically context windows, and think of that as like short-term memory, that or working memory, that having it at the very end to make sure it's something that is at top of mind. I know they don't have a mind, but you know, conceptually it's the same concept. Okay, cool. So Abby, thank you for that mention. I always do that in my real stuff. I'm sorry I didn't do it in the sample, but yes, we do that. And I also say that it's acceptable to abbreviate it, but never to adjust it in any other way. And of course, we would say never, you know, must be from the source material. Cool. And the pro tools like Coloop are really good at that, by the way. Yeah. Okay, so Justin has, you know, the key question in all of research. How strong does this have to be for making a product decision? A really interesting question. So I'm sorry to say it depends, but for example, let me just try and give you some we had one group that was like, hey, we have this thing, we have a news service and we have like a fun feed. Should we bring these things together? They serve like hundreds of millions of people. So with that, we did a massive global study. And so obviously that one, we're not talking about 10 to 20 signals, we're talking about hundreds. And because it's like a really, you know, hundreds of $1 million decision. So, so yeah, it totally depends if we're talking about this. In general, I guess I want you to think about this a little differently too. With the advent of things like AI moderated interviews and being easier to recruit folks globally, we're increasingly doing things multilingually and globally for almost all our clients. So I can tell you all about what folks with Brazilian Portuguese are thinking versus Germany versus Thailand. And we're finding that actually really, really helpful. So I just wanted to say that I actually want you to think big in this case. In general, I guess I think about the number of target audiences. So we'd at least, you know, the old days when we'd talk about usability and catching usability issues, the argument was 5 people can catch 80% of the issues. So, so that's usability. But when you're doing strategic decision making, I'm happy to talk to you offline too, Justin. But yeah, I think we'd be definitely talking about your larger audience there. And this is where we might do you know, interviews plus quantitative things as well. So lots of possibilities there. So really excellent, important question with a really hard, nuanced answer. So thank you. I'm trying to do my best in a few minutes, but I appreciate it. Totally reasonable question. Yeah, so what we were doing just now with an analysis was with AI moderated interviews. So they are people who are being recorded and they're answering questions. They're just answering questions to an AI moderator as opposed to a human interviewer. So same idea, just with a AI. So with these particular transcripts we were working on here. I think that's what you mean, and I apologize if I'm off. Feel free to like follow up, and I'll make sure I answer exactly the question you've got for me here. But cool, I'm glad you're asking. Let's see, Jim. Let's see, North Carolina, very cool. Oh, okay. Have I experienced responses? So okay, so there's 2 versions of responses. It could be from the AI, or where it's basically making up something wrong, or someone has a deeply held belief who's a human that happens to be untrue. So I don't know, there's talk right now about vaccines or about medicines like acetaminophen. And so anyway, so with those kind of things, I guess I can't force a human to have a corrected response. It's a whole different persuasive to psychology, or moving all the way into dark UX and those kind of things. So I'm not going to head there today. It's actually an interesting topic, but yeah, I guess I've experienced responses based on a certain belief that may or may not be true. So, I mean, like, where is the most populated country in the world? And if you say it's the U.S., you're wrong. So sure. And I guess we don't force it. We understand that they've got a different. Let me give you a very different thing here, Jim. So we're slowly veering off on design here, and sort of persuasive and thoughtful design. When people are buying homes for the first time, often they're like, "Oh, if I tell the buyer that my golden retriever is going to love the backyard, and I'm going to take care of their flowers, and so they'll pick us." Really, what's often happening is, does that person have a good FICO score, and is there a clean title on the property for buying it in America? And so anyway, my point is that we have to gradually get people to have a more sophisticated belief, to be an educated consumer, and how do we bring them along? So we usually do try to attract them with their current beliefs, and then also introduce them to new ideas and new ways of thinking along the way in our designs. So really interesting topic, a little off the edge of what we're doing here, but interesting. So anyway, that's for the humans. If it's just that the AI is making up something, generally it's a statistical thing, so it's not bad at pulling these things out. Okay, so I promised one person that we would make it to, these are really interesting questions. So I promised one person we'd get to synthetic users. Let me make sure we do. I'll have to stop at the top of the hour. So the idea here, so what are we doing? Just to take a big step back. So the notion here is, can we represent what we might get from real humans in order to learn? And just to be clear, I guess I'm not necessarily saying I'm collecting data here. I might be collecting inspiration for when I talk to real humans, or I might be realizing there are more answers than I would anticipate to a question, or I might just learn even how their speech pattern might be. So I find this a sort of interesting investigation to open up my mind for these kind of things. So let's just give this a whirl. I think the best thing I can do is show you this. And there are questions about bias, there are questions about pro tools that do this, there are questions about, I have a whole bunch of interviews, how can I get them to influence a synthetic user, which is a totally valid thing too. So lots of ideas here. But let me just try and get this up and running. Okay, so, and this is meant to give you a first start in this kind of thing. And note that I'm trying to say either you can have a synthetic consumer, or like B2B person, or you can have a synthetic expert. Like, if you're the only person doing UX research, you actually might want to create a synthetic UX research expert as a sort of thought partner for what you're doing, right? So it goes both ways. So I'm going to say a consumer at this point. And I made the prompt the way I did, and it's saying, like, tell me about their lifestyle and interests and purchasing behaviors, because in the time I was doing this, it was about e-commerce. You don't have to have that kind of information. It's just the way I structured the prompt. So let's just say this is, let's see, so lawyer from, well, lawyer's kind of unusual. Let's just try and, yeah, actually, okay, here, let's try this. I haven't tried this before. So we're going to have a professional. Okay, there we go. So I'm just kind of randomly making this up, and then purchasing. We're going to, I'll just say skip this. Okay, so what it's doing is really, really quickly giving you a sort of, so this person is Maya, and she's 37 in Palo Alto. Palo Alto is where Stanford is, that makes sense. She has 2 kids. Right, senior level contributor, where she optimizes enterprise scale AI apps. Okay. It likes to go to Yosemite, that would work, or Santa Cruz Mountains, they're really pretty. Okay, and then it's got all this stuff. So basically, it's provided a whole persona for this person, right? And the idea is to just give you a little bit of richness here, and then it says, before we proceed, is there anything we can do to make Maya, more to your target audience that you're interested in? And for now, I'm just going to skip this, but I want to let you know you can do this and have some fun with it. So it's going to say no, and now it's going to, it basically assumes the persona. So it says, hi, I'm Maya. So between debugging prompts, which I'm familiar with, or juggling school schedules, yeah, that sounds familiar. We're planning our next hiking trip to Santa Cruz Mountains. All right. So, okay, so in this case, let's actually go back to our stakeholder questions. Okay, so this isn't perfectly worded, but it's pretty close. Okay, so what have you recently used AI for personally? Which tool, how did it go? Okay. So you can see that, it's starting to give you some ideas here of what it was trying. Cross-check trail reviews on all trails. I actually know all trails. I think that sounds reasonable. So you can see that it starts to feel a little real here, right? And so the idea is to give you an idea of what might be the answers that someone might give. These are actually pretty thorough, maybe more thorough than we'd get from a real participant, but it gives you a feeling. Let me just try one more question here, and I'll show you one other thing that's a little fun too. Okay, so this person is pretty tech savvy, so how often do you think they're going to use AI in a typical week? Probably like, we probably should ask them by how many times in an hour. But okay. Okay, so this person is talking about niche things, and if I had someone who was lower on the spectrum of like tech savvy, probably wouldn't mention that. So you can just see it, you start to get an idea of, oh, and so again, this is ChatGPT inserting itself, and so we'd probably want to pull that out. But it's starting to give you a feel for what the answers are that you might get, and sort of prepare you for interviews and thinking about how it goes. So I really think of this as inspiration rather than like, I'm going to make a multi-million-dollar decision on this. But I think it's a really interesting way to do this. Let me just give you one last idea here. We're going to switch gears and say, okay, please. Okay, so we're switching gears here. So we got Jaden here, 19-year-old college student, Gen A. Okay, that's probably borderline. Okay, great. Invests in rare kicks. Okay, okay, so I'll say, please, assume Jaden's persona and typical. Okay, here we go. So, yo, what's good? I'm all about the fit. Okay, so here you go. Oh, what are you trying to ask me? Okay, I'm starting to hear, okay, it's resonating with me here. So I'm like, okay, so Kith is like a clothing brand, and so is it still popular? Is it still a W? Oh, okay. So, right, here's how I see it from a Bronx streetwear game. Okay. Interesting. So I don't know that bullet points is necessarily exactly the way I'd want it to do it. What might be slipping? Overextension. So they're trying, when brands try to be everything. Okay, like Kith. Okay. Interesting. So Kith is still a W. It's just evolving, no longer hype gear. Okay, there you go. So it's kind of fun to try this. So, I would not normally speak like this. And so it's a good way to say, how might I anticipate what I'm going to get? Also, if I was talking to a engineer who had like real high level knowledge of like metallurgy, I would want to prepare for that too. So anyway, I think that's a neat way to try these things. Okay, cool. Let me see what I got here. Oh, sorry. Let's see, Jim. Oh, sorry. No, we had that one. Let's see. Any other? Sorry, do you have other questions? I felt like I saw some questions hitting. Or maybe it was just a couple of thumbs up. But anyway, it's kind of a fun way to do things. Please do ask any questions you've got. I know we have to wrap up here in maybe just a couple minutes. But hopefully overall, I'm giving you a sense that there are a couple things. So ultimately, just take a real big step back. What have I given you? I've tried to make sure you had some core knowledge of prompt engineering. So just this sort of, yeah, here, let me just zoom out here and get to this. This notion of like role, task, context, and output or constraints. It helps so much to let the LLM get what you want the first try. The other thing I guess I wanted to say is that I want you to really think about metaprompting and this notion of being able to get a better prompt than I might otherwise be able to do. And just remember that question about what are other questions you have for me, which is so crucial for you to understand that the things you take for granted, it may not know, okay? And also just, I think this is a nice way to quickly analyze interviews. I'm always going into the transcripts myself, but I want you to know that this is a good first step. And lastly, I think that this is an interesting new tool for us synthetic users that we can really think about. And it's just interesting, you know, all of these are readily available for you free, and so we ought to put them to use where we can and be, I just want you to be, if there's one thought, with all of this AI stuff, I want you to be curious but skeptical. So, so please do that. So cool. Abby, I'm glad you had fun. By all means, I'm delighted to have you. Let's see, a couple other notes here. Let me see here. Bring this back. Let's see, Justin. Do I see synthetic responses capturing an average response but missing out on edge or nuance? Yeah, actually, really interesting question. Yeah. So it's actually, there's a harder question about how do you decide how human the responses are. If you actually really think about it, that's a hard thing to measure, because is it like the syntax? Is it the words they're using? Is it the thought pattern? Is it the way, what's drawing their attention? There could be any number of things we measure there. But your point about edge cases, remember that we can do this for, it doesn't have to, we don't have to stop at one, right? It's free. So actually, Justin, I really like the concept of using this for edge cases. So if we've got those hikers, you know, she's just, the one we had here was just, you know, in Silicon Valley heading up to Santa Cruz. Well, let's see what an Alaskan hiker is like, or let's see what a hiker who's got, you know, motoric challenges but loves hiking is like. So these sort of edge cases is actually a nice way to open your mind to what are those different thought patterns someone might have. In AI for everyday use, we might want to see who has like really strong privacy feelings, who's really concerned about like environmental impacts of AI, so they're trying to use it sparingly. So I think those kind of like edge cases are actually really valuable to get an idea where we might not have the money to recruit real humans in every context. So I think that's actually, thank you for bringing that up, and it's actually a really nice way to do things. Cool. Let's see, oh yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, sure, absolutely. I'm glad you just keep trying things and keep learning. That's what we're all doing. Yeah, Wilson, you're very welcome. Very cool. Kevin, oh yeah, okay, good. Good, have fun with those synthetic users. We actually have some folks who have kids at a certain age, and they actually had really big fun talking back and forth to them because it's speaking in the language and syntax that they're familiar with at school. So they're like shocked that it knows that stuff. So, okay, cool. Yeah, a little more serious question here, which is totally fair. Enrandaj, what a cool name. Way funner than John. How do we control bias? Okay, so a couple things to think about there. So one actually is the comment that Justin had, is we could certainly have multiple synthetic users we have, and specifically try to target different age groups or areas. So I think you might be referring to the bias that's sort of inherent in models. So historically, for example, it overrepresents English speakers as a representative example, and probably people around Silicon Valley for that matter. So they're getting better, but we would want to acknowledge those kind of things. And I think this is where the proof is in the pudding a little bit. I don't know that in a free version where I can just give you a prompt and let you free can really control for bias. So the pro tools, so if I take you to something like, let's go here, I've got to take your note off the screen here for a sec. I'll try not to erase the screen. Okay, cool. If I go to something like verve.com. So this group here, so I'll just let you have the little people running around everywhere, but oh yeah, here actually, maybe I can jump to their people model. Let's see here. Yeah, okay. So the idea here is yeah, let's just go here. They actually try to interview, and again, mileage may vary. This is what a company is putting on their website, but this group tries to interview like about 3 million people a year. And so they're trying to get their own sample that logically they can try to really make unbiased. And also, to Justin's point, they try to have a range of people that they're interviewing and therefore have for simulation as well. So they're trying to say there's good matching with real humans, and when we make different ones like early adopters or late adopters as a representative example, they have different characteristics and those seem to be going well. So this is one quick test. I think there's no standard for this, and it'll be interesting to see how this gets formed ultimately. So a really, really thoughtful question that I can't, faithfully, fully address right now, but I'm glad it's top of mind. And I think the other thing I'd say is, with your own knowledge and own samples of interviews, go ahead and make a synthetic user that represents your population that you know really well to test for these kind of things as well. So yeah, we are always cautious, but we think of this as a good first inspiration. So cool. Okay, we gotta stop somewhere. I'll stop here. It's been fun to be with you all, and I so appreciate the questions and conversation. And of course, I hope you'll actually join me as well over here. So here, I'll just leave and put this guy up just for a sec, so you can grab a little discount. And yeah, this is good. You're very welcome. And the questions were really helpful to make it more fun. Okay, everyone, have a great day, evening, morning, depending on where you are. And I'll see you soon, hopefully on October 7 when our class starts. Very cool. Bye for now, everyone.